Vacations will never be the same. Welcome to the theme parks of Universal Orlando Resort. With spectacular hotels and more, Universal Orlando offers an entire week of vacation awesome. Visit universalorlando.com.
ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
You're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. This is the show where we speak with musicians and artists, people affiliated with music, about all the different jobs they've done in their lives. On today's episode, we speak with John Niven, author of Kill Your Friends and about a dozen other novels. And he's just announced the theatre show that he wrote, the comedy theatre show called The Battle, which is about the battle between Blur and Oasis, 1995, Country House versus Roll With It in the charts. That is coming to stages across the UK next year, and you can buy your tickets now. Cheers for listening to this episode. If you enjoy it and you're new to 101 Part-Time Jobs, we put out 2 episodes every week with a lot of bands who we think are great, some of which you'd heard of and others you might not have. Subscribe so you can get notified, and if you're able to leave 5 stars on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening, we'd massively appreciate that. After the jump is John Niven.
101 part-time jobs.
101 Part-Time Jobs just reached 400 episodes, and we won 2 awards at the Independent Podcast Awards. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. The reason we've been able to keep going is because of sponsorship. We've been lucky enough to work with some brands who we believe in and we understand the message of, and we hope you do too. This episode is sponsored by DistroKid. If you're looking for a way to put out your music, if you have a friend, a niece, a nephew that doesn't quite know how to get their music up on Spotify or Apple, tell them to head to DistroKid, where you can be your own record label effectively. That was a dream 10 years ago. I wish I had that growing up. But for an affordable price, you can go on DistroKid. Head to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod to get 30% off your running costs there for the first year. So if you've made a record and you're not quite sure what you wanted to do with it, you can head to DistroKid and release it yourself. distrokid.com/VIP/101pod for 30% off your first year. Right now, we'll get back to the episode.
It's been interesting, Giles. I had my daughter's school rock band concert. Yeah. 7-year-olds play unrecognisable versions of classic rock tunes.
What time was that then?
9 a.m. So yeah.
Assembly.
9:30. Sorry. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But do you know what? And that's for your daughter, is it?
Yeah.
That's gonna be, or that could be rather, a formative moment for her.
Hope she didn't catch my face today as they were rapping through Blur's song 2. Not so recognisable.
I mean, has your like attitude towards writing, the place where you're writing from, has that changed over the years? Do you still try and dig into that similar kind of, I don't know, that kind of not a spiritual place? It sounds a bit wanky, doesn't it? But that, I suppose, that spiritual place where you sit with yourself and you dig inside of yourself to write these characters, to explore these stories.
Yeah, no, that hasn't really changed. And I've been a professional writer now for exactly 21 years. And that hasn't really changed. I tried a few times to write novels and films when I was in my 20s, but I didn't really have the self-discipline that you need
Right.
to lock the door for, to sit on your own for long stretches of time. There's always
Yeah.
something more fun to be doing when I was in my 20s, if you get my drift.
Yeah. Yeah. Big
And
time.
then when I was in my turned 30, in my early 30s, I moved out of London because I was trying to become a writer seriously at that point. And I couldn't just keep living that sort of lifestyle where I'd go out on a Friday for a few pints and wake up on somebody's sofa on a
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon or a Monday morning. That wasn't working anymore.
Yeah.
So we moved out of London to Buckinghamshire, where I still live. And that was difficult at first because I'd been used to living in London and, the sticks was a bit crazy. But I did that, I don't know if you've read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers,
I have. Yeah.
where he posits that to achieve excellence in something, you need to put 10,000 hours in. I moved to the country and I pretty much between, I think now, 2002 and 2005, over that 3-year period, I reckon I did those 10,000 hours. I'd just get up every morning and go to the desk and I'd write all day. I don't work that hard now. I tend to do most of it in the morning, then maybe a couple of hours in the afternoon if I've got a lot on. But I reckon over that, that was all I did for like 3 years,
There's some stubbornness in that.
Yeah. Well, also it was a kind of, I think, as I say, I was maybe 32 or so then. It felt to me like I was leaving it all very late, It was sort of last chance saloon.
But that's early. That's young now.
I know. I guess I had a couple of friends who are writers who got published in their 20s or late 20s, and I was thinking, have I left all this too late? And
Yeah.
32 it's old for a rock star. It's not old for a novelist,
Yeah. It's old for Sadie Smith, but young for the rest of them.
Exactly. So, and also, the truth is, I had a similar way of expression on the page in my 20s. I could turn you a kind of not dissimilar sentence to what eventually made me successful as a writer, but I didn't have that much to talk about. Nabokov said that it's all very well the notion of retiring to your ivory tower to write, but to build an ivory tower, you have to take the unavoidable trouble of killing a few elephants first. Well, which means, you have to go out in the world and live and do stuff to have stuff to write about. And so, in my case, it was the decade I spent in the music business in my 20s became the sort of ammunition for Kill Your Friends.
Yeah.
And music from Big Pink, about my first novella. But, Kill Your Friends was probably the book that crossed over and made me,
Yeah, that's the one that people talk about when they say your name.
Yeah.
Is that, and I don't mean this to be like a loaded question, but like, how do you feel about that? Does that make you, it's like saying, oh yeah, that first album's wicked. They've released 4 since. It's the same thing, isn't it?
I know, but I think everyone, if you're lucky enough to have a big, impactful book in your career, then, Hunter Thompson got You're the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas guy. Everyone Welsh still gets You're the Trainspotting guy. British Nellis gets You're the American Psycho guy. If you're lucky enough to have one book, you'll have kind of, I've got a long career now. It's 20 years and a dozen books, and you'll have a hardcore of fans who read everything you do. And you have some people that just know that one book, and you have some other people who come in and out here and there on the bigger books in your career, and some more successful than others, and that's just, that's the nature of the beast. But I would never be offended by somebody referring to me as that. It's better than who the fuck are you?
For sure, and it must be a pretty small minority of authors who get that one, who get that one big one.
I think if you look at the surveys from the Royal Societies of British authors and stuff, that it's a tiny percentage of people that don't have to have a day job. I'm very fortunate in that this is, for 20 years now, this is how I've supported me and my family. It's diversified. And I think when I started 20 years ago, I thought myself primarily as a novelist, and I did a little bit of dabbling in screenwriting as a sort of, side hustle.
Yeah.
Whereas now I think it's reversed, Now I used to say that the novel was kind of the wife and the screenwriting was the mistress, and now it's the opposite almost, because frankly, the screenwriting is so much more better paid than
Is it?
Novels, yeah. Well, if you're lucky enough, I sold a script 20 years, no, God, 15 years ago, and then got a manager in LA out of that, and I've been fortunate in that I've kind of got a fair bit of sort of rewriting and studio work since then. So that's fairly well remunerated, but I also do bits of journalism, but I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm fortunate in that also I do quite well in several countries. I sell quite a lot of books in Germany, I do well in Italy. In between Italy and Germany and the UK, it's a pretty good living, but then the screenwriting on top is, what makes it kind of more sustainable than, some people who don't have any of that. I mean, I'm too old to have sort of monetized social media.
Yeah, well, that must be a relief.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's funny sitting here doing this for you because like so many people I meet now that's got a podcast or they're developing a podcast or they're doing a podcast, and I sometimes think, did I miss a meeting? Why did everybody decide that they were some kind of presenter? There was a fucking meeting a few years ago. I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to be a sort of presenter and do this. I'm like, I mean, some people are, there's a few. I don't. No disrespect. I have to work so much, and when I have some free time, I like to read. I like to listen to music, and I've got 4 kids. So between all that, I'll go on trips sometimes with mates, and they'll be like, "Oh, what's your favourite podcast?" And I'm like, "Are you fucking crazy? Where do you guys find the time to listen to all these?" But I don't do big long drives very often. When I do, there's kids in the car, and we're sort of listening to fucking, Baby Shark or whatever. I don't have dogs, so I don't go on a lot of long walks. The only excitement I get is I play golf, and you can't really, So I very rarely have an environment where I have the time to listen.
Well, you know what? I was playing in bands until my mid-20s, and we toured a lot, but just made no money. Always supporting. Always coming home with less money than we left with. Sleeping on people's floors. And then I got a couple of crap jobs until I started working at a radio station for basically free, but I was on the dole, so it was all right. But it was then I decided, all right, now I'm gonna try and work in radio. Producer, probably. I'd like to present because I was a singer in the band. I feel like I understand how to kind of communicate ideas in some kind of shape. But when I was applying for these podcast producing jobs, all these podcast producing jobs, they're like, we only want to hear from you if you've dedicated your life to listening to podcasts. I'm like, who the fuck has got the time to listen, to spend all fucking day listening to other people? You don't. You've got to, I don't know what people are thinking there.
No. It's interesting to you say that, James. I did the same thing. I was in an indie band who was like permanently supporting people and sleeping on people's floors and up until about the age of 22, I kind of thought that's what I was going to do. I'd be in a band. Yeah.
I remember playing one gig and I heard someone in the front row as I was tuning up saying, "Who's this band?" And their mate was like, "Oh, it's the band who supports fucking everyone." And I was like, okay, right.
That's not really what you want to hear, is it?
No.
I remember I was being at the London Marathon, and this would be like 1990 maybe. And between 4 of us, we didn't have enough money to buy an ice cream. I remember thinking, I guess I was 21 at that point, I thought, this is quite a hard way of life, this.
When you get your royalties through, you get 1 can and get 4 straws.
Well, I guess that's worse now, isn't it, for kids? Spotify.
Totally. Big time. As I understand it, like writers, newspaper writers, magazine writers. I mean, first of all, magazine editorial teams have gone down from to 2 people per title, seems like.
Yeah. It's very grim out there in that world. What cracks me up is there's all these courses now, though, at colleges, like teaching people like music journalism, whatever.
Mm-hmm. There's more now than there used to be.
That are all being taught by guys who used to be music writers and who now can't get a gig. Teaching, what are you doing? Where are these kids going? You can't get a job. Yet you think the kind of 19, 20-year-old version of you is going to suddenly get a job. There are no jobs, it's like, I mean, nobody knew that the internet was going to come along and eat everything up,
Yeah.
And expect people to give it away,
101 part-time jobs. 101 part-time jobs.
When you wrote that screenplay that you said has been like a part of your working life since you did it 20 years ago. What is that one?
The script that I wrote with my partner Nick, the guy who I've written a few films with,
Nick Ball.
Yeah. It was called the script we wrote was called Roadkill. It was made into a really bad movie called Cat Run with Paz Vega and Janet McTee. Janet McTee is actually very good in it. She, of course, went on to, you've seen her in Ozark and things like that. She's a great stage actress. And Bill McDonald was in it, who's, of course, Shooting McGavin from Happy Gilmore. He was in the movie. Right. It was a really bad experience creatively, and the end result was dog shit. So,
how does that fit? You know, because sorry, you go.
How does it feel?
Ah.
Well, yeah. The thing is, working Hollywood, you as a screenwriter, you kind of kept at arm's length quite a lot. So we sold our script, and the speech you hear is, "We love it. We're not going to change anything," and then suddenly the changes start to happen. And some of these are creative, aesthetic at the behest of the director. Some of them are practical from the point of view of where the movie's going to get shot and stuff. But to bore you with the anecdote on the Cat Run Roadkill one, that was crazy because they suddenly rang us up and said, okay, we need you guys to do a quick rewrite, and we're going to set the movie in Serbia. And we're like, you mean, what do you mean you're going to shoot in Serbia because it's cheap, obviously, over there, but it's still, the actual film was set in the eastern seaboard of America. It's still going to be set in America. No, we want the movie to be set over there. And we were immediately thinking, hang on, they go and visit somebody's mum at one point. Why the fuck is a mum living in Serbia? What the logistics of it was just like mind-boggling. I'm like, why are we doing this? The director goes, look, we could get a tax break there. I can make I think it was $13 million budget. Because I can make 30 million look like 30 million out there. And, well, it doesn't matter if it looks like 300 million. If the movie doesn't make any sense, people are going to be throwing dog shit at the screen. Are you mad? But no, they wanted to do this, and so it's difficult. You do a draft that you know is damaging your work, but if you don't do it, you'll be fired, and they'll get some idiot into it.
Yeah, and you can see the tension between like it sounds like a cliche. It's a bit like the creative side of it and like the business side of it.
Well, you know, they say a camel is a horse designed by committee. It's that deal, you know. So we wound up doing all this, and then they just cut us out the loop, and they made the movie. But contractually, they have to invite you to the premiere. So we go off to LA about a year later for the premiere, and we're sitting in this theatre, and within 10 minutes, and film, I'm going, who's that? Where the fuck is she? Where are they going? What's it? I had no idea what was happening, and I wrote the film. So I must have lost about 10 kilos in sweat just sitting there, just sinking lower and lower in my seat as this approach is moving on. And we came.
But had you not managed to sort of like distance yourself from it then, or was it more of like people are going to look at this and think that's my work?
Yeah, because by this point we downed tools on the rewriting because it was so bad, and they got some other guys in to rewrite our stuff. And one of these guys took us to the Writers Guild arbitration. He's suing us for a credit on the film, a writing credit. And I said at this point, I went, you know what? It might not be a bad idea to let the fucker have it, because this movie is going to be dog shit, and I don't know if we want our names on it. And our agent said to him, well, I get that, but you never know. Stranger things have happened, and somehow this movie turns out and it's good. That does happen in Hollywood, you know. You look at Jaws, that was a very troubled shoot, over budget, over the schedule, a lot of fighting, a lot of technical problems. Nobody thought it would work, and bang. So, and if you give up your credit or you share it, then you reduce your residuals, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, we took the credit, and after this dog shit film had finished, it just comes up at the end, written by John Niven, and you're just like, oh my God, why did I keep the credit?
How much did you get into Hollywood? How far did you get into that kind of?
I'm still in it. It's a lot of my work, you know.
Right.
A lot of the game is. Studios pay people routinely to either write scripts based on books they've optioned or ideas some producers had, or to rewrite scripts that are already in production, you know. So, you know,
yeah, okay.
that I still do a few of those gigs every year, you know.
Yeah. What are they like? Do they approach you? Like, what are those meetings like? Are you going over there? Are you meeting?
You go since COVID. You go. I used to go to LA 4 or 5 times a year. It's probably more like once or twice since COVID, because people get used to doing calls in Zoom.
Yeah.
What's the process like? It's if you go into it with the attitude that you're a job for hire, and if you can enjoy the technical aspect of the work, 'cause sometimes it's sort of structurally something's not working, or it's too long, or it's like the best jobs to get. I love writing dialogue. I can do that all day long. So a dialogue polish is always a great job to get. You just come in and try and make it funnier or scarier or crazier, whatever the brief is, But I kind of, as long as you enjoy, you have to get into the view that 8 out of 10 things you work on will never get made anyway. That can get you down a bit now and again. But I've got another outlet in that I write novels. So all these books are going to exist on the shelf, and that's going to be part of your legacy. If all I did was write movies that never got made, I might start to get a bit depressed.
Yeah.
I think I've had. You'd have to look at IMDb, but I think I've got about 7 produced movie credits of stuff I've worked on that's got made in the last 10 to 15 years. And believe it or not, in that period, I've probably worked on 40 films. So I don't know what the percentage would be, 7 out of 40 films, but that's not a bad hit ratio, believe it or not.
Yeah, I do believe it. I got a friend who did something with a comedian a couple of years ago, and it was like a short thing that got produced by BBC. And since then, they had loads and loads of meetings, and the sort of the weird, and it's a lot like bands, I think, right? You get signed to a label, and obviously the kind of shelving culture, but it's all about the communication or the lack of. Where it's like, you start doing something, and this is my mate, and they have meetings every 6 months, but it doesn't really go anywhere. Or it's like, it begs the I wonder, like, do you have to be proactive there for yourself and like chase it?
Not much chasing. It tends to come via your agent. I've got an agent manager in LA. And
you could have a bad agent as well, right?
You can. Unfortunate. Mine's are pretty good. I'm fairly happy with it. Also this year, I've just finished writing my first stage play.
Nice.
Which has been a whole other experience, because the relationship that you have as a writer in the theatre is very different to Hollywood. In the theatre, the writer is kind of venerated and respected, and they will discuss changing a comma with you as if it's a point of art. Whereas in LA, it's just, I fucking hate this guy, I hate this character, I hate this scene, I hate this this, fix all this, change all this. It's like not like that in the theatre. They're very, very respectful of the writer, and your attention should be quite refreshing.
What's it called?
The play is called The Battle, and it's about the battle for number 1 between Blur and Oasis.
I've read about it. Yeah.
So I was approached to do it by one really good theatre producer called Simon Friend, who approached me. This was 2 years ago, way before the Oasis reformation happened.
Just thinking,
He asked me at the time, do you think they'll reform? And I went, if they're gonna, I think it would either be around 2025, 26 for the 30th anniversary of More Than Glory, and then if it's going to happen, it would happen then. But I didn't really think it would. And then, of course, Noel got divorced, and suddenly it all came a bit more real.
Yeah.
But I think we were I'd already written a few drafts of the play by then. Well, obviously, I've been accused already of cashing in. I'm like, no, I was doing this before Oasis reformed. But obviously, Oasis reformation and the incredible demand for tickets, and it was like, whoa. And they could have done 10 nights at Wembley. It was like, I think if it keeps going, you might see them do a week at Nebworth next year for the anniversary,
So when that got announced, did you get a call saying, "All right, yeah, let's do this. Let's try"?
No. I'd already been, I don't know how I'd already been paid and we'd written a bunch of drafts.
Okay.
But then suddenly, I think it did help with getting the play financed and getting it over the line. So it'll be opening at Birmingham Rep Theatre in February to March, and we're there for a month, I think, and then it goes to Manchester.
And did you write that with Nick? Was that you by yourself?
This is just on my own.
Yeah, great.
So it's been quite an eye opener writing for the theatre for the first time.
Did you watch the Gareth Southgate Dear England?
I didn't know.
What it made me think of is I fucking hated going to the theatre as a kid, but now I really enjoy it. You know, when I see my mum once a month, and we'll go do that. And went to Dear England, and I thought, like, you know, if someone said, "Oh, do you want to go watch a stage play about this?" I probably would have been like, "What happens in it? How do they do it? Like, physically, how do they do it? How do they tell the story?" But that was a big eye opener for me about how to tell that story.
Well, with the Blood Oasis one, when I was approached about writing it, my initial thought was like, going to see. I thought they might have been after sort of Britpop the musical. So that's not really what I do. So I was kind of turning it down, I guess, initially.
Right.
And then I thought about it. I thought, you know what? There could be a really funny play about men screaming at each other in rooms about something that, when you pull the camera back a little, it's just, you know, it's really stupid.
It's so stupid.
You know,
well, that's music. That's music.
But while it was really stupid, it became so heated, and it was like a national news conversation. You know, it was like, it's difficult to imagine two pop groups being the centre of the culture in that way today. You know, that they're on BBC News at 10. I mean, for a start, what kids watch BBC News at 10 now? So they're often, you know, there's no consensus culture like that anymore, is there?
So when you were writing it, do you write the scenes? Do you say, okay, they're going to be in this room, this is the stage dress, this is what it looks like?
Of course, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's the other challenge, because I'm used to writing for movies where you can just go anywhere. You can just say, we cut to a beach, we cut to, you know, a mountain, you know, 5 camels are coming across the hill. Or whatever, you know, you can do anything. But in the theatre, you got to think, okay, hang on, how are we physically going to do this on stage? So it became a lot of it's like cutting between 2 different recording studios where the bands are, because they were.
Yeah.
When all that was happening, you know, Blood were finishing up making The Great Escape, and Oasis were making What's the Story of Morning Glory, and it was all kicking off.
What's the pub they used to sort of meet at, a clash at in Camden? Is the
there was a few.
The Good Mixer.
Good Mixer was famously.
Yeah. Who plays Albarn and who plays the brothers?
We don't know that yet. We start auditions in May.
Okay.
So we will see.
That's fun. So your life is probably going to get quite centered around that.
Well, it's going to be, auditions in May, June, then rehearsals in October, September, October, through to January, Feb, and then open in Feb. Yeah. So it'll be quite intense second half of the year.
When you do that, those sorts of things, I wonder if you get nominated for like awards, and you kind of go into that kind of public eye again, and you're rubbing shoulders with other sort of writers, and you're getting invited to those parties. Do you get invited to parties?
I do get. I do occasionally get invited to parties, Giles. I'm not that unpopular.
But it's like when you do something, it's like when you release a record, all of a sudden, people are talking about you. You get invited to the award stuff. You get invited to those parties.
When you have a book out, you're obviously, more in the public eye.
Yeah.
And at other times, than sitting in your room for the 2 years writing it, it's kind of a bit more of a sociable time. Well, you go for book tours, and you do the literary festivals and all that kind of thing, which, it's fun. It gets you out of the house.
Yeah.
That's it. Writing a novel is quite a long, lonely job. It's just you in a room for, a year and a half, too, Whereas, once the book's out, you get out to go and be a bit sociable, or, Similarly working in movies, you have to meet the producers, you meet the director, you meet actors, you go, it's a bit more sociable. And
the whole thing about like you're going out, it's at bars, those places happen, or like parties or people's houses.
Sadly, Giles, I'm too old now to really. You're going out, it's just a pain in the fucking arse. As they say, if you're in your pajamas on the sofa on a Saturday night at 9 o'clock in your 20s, you feel like the world's biggest loser. If you're doing that once you're in your 40s, 50s, you feel it's won the lottery.
That's great.
Yeah. There's nothing. Once you reach a certain age, nothing makes you happier than someone cancelling on you.
Well, I got that now, and I'm 33. But I do like going to, I went to see Kneecap the other day. Stayed for the after party.
Oh, how was that? A good
Oh,
band, love. Yeah.
Fucking brilliant. And I'm not like, I don't really fawn over celebrities. Growing up, I was always more interested in like the local bands. But saying that, seeing Paul Weller and Noel Gallagher up close and seeing, the crown of their hair in real life.
Well, they at Kneecap. Those guys were at Kneecap.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Good for them.
101.
Your books are based, I guess like a lot of authors, but you go into your own experiences. I feel like a lot of your experience, going out and being in the music industry, there's so many like distractions there, and times that you wind up in fucking mad situations. I think, playing in bands, you wind up in mad situations. Is there a time that you want to write about, particular periods of time where you think I should really dig into that?
Well, when you get to my age, you've kind of, how to put this best? When you're younger, a lot more tends to happen to you, when you you go out, you get into situations, you're up to crazy stuff. You pass a certain age, you kind of been there, done that, and life becomes a little more, if you're going to be a writer, I think you need to be a big fan of routine. I love routine. I follow try to follow a very similar routine every day. But Stephen King, I think it was said that the muse is more likely to find you if they know where you're going to be every day. So I kind of like to be sat at the desk and just cracking on. But when I was younger, I think, see, to me, if I look back and I think from 1976 to 86, that's like when I was a kid, little kid, and I remember the world being specific, 86 through to 96, I was a young man, and sort of get into music and starting to play in bands and go to gigs and go out and then work in the music industry. That's again a defined era for me. Again, 96 to 2006, I kind of see the world then as a kind of different. So much after 2006, like the last 20 years, it just all looks the same to me. It's just kind of, it's like, what's I often say, like, the Arctic Monkeys still feel like quite a new band to me.
Yeah.
As do the Strokes, because I'm old. I'm like, I remember them being quite a new band. You kind of, give up popular culture, but things definitely, you're not quite as in the cut hurly burly of it as you once were.
Jobs! What's the biggest fuck up you've made as a writer? Something that you've settled now. I don't want to ask you to sort of drag old memories back up in your mind, but ever sort of fallen into a trap, fucking made a big bad decision.
Oh God, I made tons of bad decisions. I'm just trying to think specifically as a writer. When my first couple of books came out, like when Kill Your Friends came out, nearly 20 years ago, I was maybe a bit too candid in interviews. I moved to an interview with one of the Scottish tabloids for Kill Your Friends, and I was clearly quite candid about how I'd lived in the 90s, because that's what the novel is about, right?
Yeah.
And when the piece came out, the headline that they blew up was, "I survived the 90s in a blizzard of cocaine and vodka." And so the phone started ringing. It's my mum. And my mum's in floods of tears. She reads this particular Scottish tabloid. My mum's going, "Son, they're saying that you took drugs." And I'm like, "Oh God." And she goes, You're going to sue them, aren't you?" I was like, "No, we're not going to."
You're going to be what?
"You're going to sue them. Do you want to
Oh, right.
You're going to sue them?" And I was like, no, we won't be doing that. I did actually say it, Mum. It did happen. I probably, one learns maybe to be a bit more circumspect in interviews.
Yeah, I think I might have to learn that. I'm very open about myself on this, and I'm like, fuck, this because this stays forever. This stays online forever,
Your mum will be tuned in at some point.
She actually doesn't mind about all that stuff, She just does.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, she says don't do drugs, but she's like, just don't get in trouble or don't hurt yourself doing drugs. That's sort of more the thing.
Yeah, the best advice I ever got when I started writing novels was you have to write as though your parents are dead.
Yeah.
Because, you have that kind of level of honesty is what you're looking for.
Well, my mum's a writer. She writes novels.
So that's she. What's her name?
Yeah. Jane Corrie.
Jane Corrie. What kind of stuff is it?
Yeah. Well, she worked when my parents broke up. She needed a second job, so this all sort of paints the picture into sort of where my mind goes, especially with doing the show. She got a job as a writer in residence at a high security prison.
Wow.
After that, she started writing sort of family crime.
Okay.
And I should say this is before the sort of the crime boom, but a lot of her novels are like follow like a kid who's accidentally killed someone, and then the parents work out what to do, and she's brilliant. I love my mum so much, and her being honest about in her books has given me license. I can't. It's pot kettle black. She can't really say anything.
Very good.
So there was John Niven here on 101 Part-Time Jobs. Coming up in the next couple of weeks, we've got Ty Segall, Annie DeRusso, David Keenan, a fellow author, and we'll be at Primavera Sound doing some chats there. So loads to come up. Click subscribe so you can get notified on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening. And thank you for being here. Cheers.
101 Part-Time Jobs is hosted by Giles Bidder and produced by me, Olivia Swash. This has been a Mighty Moon Media production.